Hello Magic Gathering players, real quick note before we start with today's list. I've gotten a few comments that have been saying that people want to see me play my decks more often. They want to see more gameplay on this channel. And obviously what I want to do is I want to give you what you want to watch. That being said, I need to know down below in the comments, do you give me all of your comments saying, do you want to see more content of gameplay? Like, do you want to see more gameplay content where I go ahead and play these decks? I can do a deck tech every other day, and so I can do the deck tech, and the next day I play the deck. Or maybe I do a deck tech once a week, and then my game, or twice a week, and then my week will just be playing that deck or playing those decks and just doing things like that. If you want that, please let me know below. But I will not be doing any of that unless I get at least 10 likes on this video. So go ahead, give the thumbs up for that vote, if not for the deck that I'm showing today, which happens to be a user requested deck. So when I say user, I mean viewer. I don't remember exactly where who asked for it, but whoever asked for Grixis control, here you go. So if you look between Grixis control and my Dimir control, you're going to be noticing a lot of similarities. The reason is, one, they share two colors, but two, because that was a very strong basis. And I also had Mystic Sanctuary in that last deck, so Mystic Sanctuary got banned. So I took Grixis control as a chance to rebrand it, as well as make up for the fact that part of that deck got banned. Now, in the previous list, you could always just replace the land, but it had such an important part because it was able to bring stuff back from your graveyard. So in this version of the list, you'll notice we do have two of a card that brings stuff back, but we'll get there eventually. So that's the explanation for why you'll notice there are a lot of similarities. And I'm not saying this is the perfect list, but I have play tested this, I've given it the honest go, and it works really well. So we're going to start off with our Planeswalker package. We have 3 Ashiok Dreamrender, and so the reason why I have 3 instead of a full 4 of is because we aren't as, like, when I made the Dimir video, I had a full 4 of Ashiok, and that's because we were more towards the, like, we were really like Titan decks, or this was the pre-Uro ban, and so these two abilities mattered more. That being said, it's still a very good card, so I want 3 of them in the main. Them milling out is 100% a possible way to win the game. But it's not our only way. Next up, we have a full 4 Narset Part of Veils. I still think this card is busted. It prevents our opponent from being able to really do much of anything, and allows us to keep the pace with them, getting more and more value every turn. So if you play Narset and minus her once, she replaces herself in your hand. If you minus her twice, she's netting you a card. So really, and she doesn't even die at that point unless they kill her. But Narset is a very, very powerful card in a deck like this. Next up is our first red card. Rawl Izzet Viceroy. Rawl Izzet Viceroy says, +1, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them in your hand and the other into your graveyard. So this is going to filter your deck even more. -3, he deals damage to target creature equal to total number of instant and sorcery cards you own in exile and your graveyard. So that's going to allow us to use things like Cling to Dust in our sideboard, or even have our opponents, like, who knows, maybe our opponent has graveyard destruction. We can't tell these days. But it allows us to get use out of our graveyard. But also, and our exile. But then -8, you get an emblem with whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, this deals 4 damage to any target and you draw 2 cards. That is very powerful, and we're probably never going to get it. I'm going to be honest, unless we've locked down the game, like, I guess I've played so many decks in the past few months, like different archetypes, prepping for videos, that I never want to say yes, we're gonna ult a Planeswalker. But honestly, this is one of the decks where we could actually ultimate Rahl. But that is not our main. That's again not our main win condition, but it is a way we can win. So we have Ashiok and we have Rahl, both giving us ways to possibly win. And my Discord notifications are gonna drive me insane. I'm just gonna... There we go. And so Rahl is a very... it's very possible for us to win, but we don't really want more than one, because he is kind of high in mana cost, and we need to be able to have a way to deal with the early game. We don't have the board wipes, like, on a budget that Azorius Control would have. So... with that being said, we do have a lot of good removal. So we have Bloodchief's Thirst, which is sorcery, which is destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana cost 2 or less, and if it was kicked, destroy them just flat, so it doesn't matter about their mana cost. Then Fatal Push, caring about if things left, dealing with mana cost 2 for a creature, or 4 if you have Revolt. Then Inquisition of Kozilek, if I can speak, is one of my favorite inclusions with this list, because we're able to run a full 4 of. Like, it's $13, we're able to run a full 4 of. I'm really happy about it. It's going to be huge, especially in this metagame, where we're able to just make them discard if they're an aggro deck, and it just really throws them off their game. Lightning Bolt is another thing that's very good in an aggro metagame, because you can just bolt down whatever creature they have, as well as maybe we do have Rahl, or maybe we do have a Creeping Tar Pit, dealt damage, or whatever. Maybe they're really close to death. Maybe we just bolt them, you know? Next up is Ether Gust, and this is a weird card to have in the main board if you aren't really a control player. But if you're a control player, you'll understand why this is in here. Ether Gust is in here just as a way to deal with our opponents playing aggro decks, playing combo decks. If your opponent's playing Storm, you could really, okay, people are gonna tell me that Ether Gust is bad against Storm, but if you Ether Gust their Past in Flames, what can they do? And also, if you Ether Gust a spell being if they Past in Flames from their graveyard and you Ether Gust it, it goes back to exile. It works the same way that it works with Remand. Because even though the counterspell will make it change zones, it will be exiled as a part of the cost for flashback. Anyway, Eliminate says destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana cost 3 or less at instant speed for 2 mana. Amazing. Don't really have to say much about that. That's a very, very good card. It does not hit Karn though, so if you're going against Tron, then maybe not. Frantic Inventory as a way to draw cards and then draw more cards later. It scales kind of with how far into the game you are. One could argue you could even Ashiok yourself to try to get things like Cling to Dust. But in the process of doing that, you can also fill your graveyard for Frantic Inventory. Not the best thing, but it is a thing you can do. Next up is Mana Leak, one of my favorite counterspells in all of Magic, and that's just because it does its job perfectly. 2 mana counterless, they pay 3, in Modern just says counter. Mission Briefing is going to surveil too. It's a bit like Scrying, but involves your graveyard, but then says you can choose an instant or sorcery from your graveyard, and you can cast that this turn. So essentially, it's Snapcaster Mage without the body, and sure, the body is really good on Snapcaster Mage, but we just need the graveyard recursion, really. The part that makes Snapcaster Mage good is the Enter the Battlefield ability. Sure, it's great that the part that makes it great is that it's also on a body, so you could swing in, but the part that like, the reason why Snapcaster Mage has its price is because it's a creature, but with that ability. So that's why this is here. Next up is Kolaghan's Command. It's another red card, and it's going to give us a little bit of flexibility. I know you're going to see a few one-ofs in this list, and you're going to be like, why? That's because a control deck like this has a lot of filtering. We have Narsets. Like, we're able to go through our entire deck practically. Anyway, this is going to be artifact destruction, it's going to be small creature destruction, it's going to be discard, and it's going to be... Well, we don't really have any creatures, so we won't be using that first part. But we do have the rest. Next up is Magmatic Sinkhole, which is going to be deal 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and it's a 6-drop with Delve. This is going to be something that we can cast later on, and it's one of the reasons why we might Ashiok ourselves. Like, it's one of those reasons. And it's, like, it might seem really weird, but in a deck that doesn't actually run Snapcasters, we do run Missions Briefing, so we do gotta be careful. But in a deck that doesn't heavily rely on Snapcaster Mages, Magmatic Sinkhole is perfect. Next up are our lands. We have 25 lands. We have Cascade Bluffs for filtering. We won't really need that double red, but I do have it in here because we do have Anger of the Gods in the sideboard. Next up is Clearwater Pathway. We only have 2 of them in here. I wish we could fit more, but really it's fine. The pathways, these are our main colors, blue, black. Creeping Tar Pit as another way we can win. It becomes a 3/2 unblockable creature, and that's very powerful once we've already shut them out of the game with all of our removal, all of our counter spells, all of our planeswalkers. We're able to just swing in. Next up is Field of Ruin. It does give a bit of like land hate, but also lets us filter. We have a mountain, we have island, we have swamps. We can hit anything in our deck if we need it. So that's why we only run 6 red sources, so that might seem low to you. But we're running 6 red spells. No, we're running 7 red sources. But we're running 6 red spells, so, and we have ways to filter, so I'm really okay with it. Next up, we have Island as one of the main colors. We have red as a subcolor. We have Swamp as another main color. We have Shivan Reef to give us blue mana, but also red mana. And quite often, you'll see that we do have generic mana in our costs, so we might not be losing as much life as you would think. Next up, we do have Temples as another blue-black source, and Temple as a blue-red source. And those Temples are going to give us more scrying, so those are really good. And honestly, we don't really care about them entering tapped. We are in it for the slower game. So with that, that's our lands, and moving on to the sideboard. Before we get to the sideboard, if you like this deck, if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. Really, I really appreciate it. And if you want to see more content like this, let me know below. If you want to see me play more decks, I am more than willing to play the game. But you have to let me know. You really have to let me know below. Come out of your shells. I know the pandemic is a bummer, but interact with people. Let me know below. And if you want to see more of my content, if you want to get notified when I give out new videos every day, go ahead and hit that subscribe. It means a lot. Anyway, moving on to the sideboard, we have Field of Ruin for more land hate. We have Cling to Dust for graveyard hate, creature hate, combo hate for Ether Gust, and then also Ether Gust can be aggro hate as well, mainly. Entrancing Melody as a way to just kind of cheese Death Shadow players as well as some other types of players. For example, Hammer Time. That's a really funny thing to do. Anger of the Gods for aggro as well as graveyard hate. And then Mystical Dispute whenever you need that extra counterspell, particularly against other control decks. Anyway, that's the sideboard. I hope you liked it. And as you can see, we stuck to our budget, $99.01. And then online, it'll be $37.03. And really, I enjoy this list. I think between the two lists, I think I prefer blue-black. But that's because I'm not the biggest fan of red in Magic. But that being said, this is still a very strong list. I love the inclusion of Rahl. I love the inclusion of Lightning Bolt. I really like the flexibility that Kolaghan's command gives, and even in the sideboard, having another Lightning Bolt and Anchor of the Gods, red adds to the list. It really does. Anyway, if you liked it, let me know below, and I will see you next time.